Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Grounded. I'm really excited. Today we have Rose Kappel, who is a vestibular warrior, and she's going to tell us her story about her honestly phenomenal journey with vestibular disorder and dizziness and getting back to work and running and all of the things. I would love if you told us about yourself and your history with the vestibular disorder and whatever else you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. My name is Rose. I'm 25 years old, and I'm a nursing student now. I live in Dallas, Texas with my husband and our two crazy dogs. Um, I love being outside. I love running, playing soccer. I also love to be in and like read a nice mystery novel. Um, I was a member of Group Fit for about 4 months, I think, which is not super long, but it was very impactful for me. And I'm just really happy to be here and be able to share my story with you.
I'm excited too. Can you give us a little bit of a history about your vestibular disorder, when it started, the diagnosis you may have, things like that?
Yeah, so for me, my first experience with vestibular disorder was about 10 years ago when I was 16 and a junior in high school. I just woke up one day to get ready to go to school. And before I even opened my eyes, I knew something was wrong. Uh, Everything was spinning, and it's kind of a difficult feeling to describe, but it was almost like I was on a tilt-a-whirl going in one direction, but the whole world around me was going in the opposite direction. And it was really scary because I had never felt anything like that before. And I remember crawling out of bed because I couldn't even hold myself up sitting and crawled out of my room, down the hall, against the wall, down the stairs to go and find my parents. And we just had no idea what was happening to me. I went to so many doctors, which you've probably heard a bunch of times. Um, Most of them told me either nothing was wrong with me or it was anxiety or I was making it up for attention because I was a 16-year-old girl. Yeah, so it took them several months to even pinpoint the source of everything going on. And about 1 month before all of my symptoms had started, I had had a respiratory virus, which I was pretty sick, but I recovered just fine, and then everything went back to normal until I woke up that day, and we ultimately found out that that virus had caused permanent to my vestibular system, and I now have a hypofunction on my right side, and so I had to finish my junior year of high school online. I started vestibular rehab to help me learn how to walk and balance again. And it was just a really difficult time for me because nobody could tell me when I would feel better. They just kind of said, well, one day you probably just will, which was super frustrating to hear and really hard to trust in. Um, and honestly, like I gave up for a little while during all of my rehab. I just stopped doing my exercises and started trying to come to terms with the fact that I would just never walk without assistance again. Uh, until I don't know what snapped me out of it, but something made me realize that if I wasn't going to help myself,
Uh-huh.
nobody else would. So I just dove back into it, kept going. And then one day, like just like it had started, I woke up and was spinning. And I remember it feeling too good to be true. Like I just told myself, okay, let's sit up and see how we feel. And I did, and I felt okay. So I said, okay, let's stand up and see how we feel. And I did, and I still felt okay. So I wanted to see what happened if I tried walking down the hall and then down the stairs and then all the way to the kitchen. And on my way to the kitchen, sorry, this makes me a little bit emotional. Um, on my way to the kitchen, I passed my parents and we were all just silent. Um, and they just watched me get a glass of orange juice from the fridge and without holding on to anything. And my mom just started crying because I hadn't been able to do that for about 7 months. Um, yeah. And since then, until this past March, I really only had symptoms triggered in certain settings or very specific situations, like very busy environments with lots of light and sound and movement, or especially at a hotel, if they have a very intricately patterned carpet.
Do all hotels with hotel carpets, honestly. It is
Yes.
it is an epidemic.
Yeah. I don't know how everyone isn't bothered by them, uh, but yeah, so stuff like that, wallpapers, or trying to walk in a dark room, because so much of my visual input is what informs my balance now. And so when that's missing, it's just a lot harder for me to navigate. Um, so when I experienced vertigo again this past March, I was terrified again. Because since having it as a teenager, I was just so afraid that it would come back one day. And unfortunately, it did. Um, I was in the middle of one of my nursing courses and I started to feel a migraine coming on. So I took my medication as usual. And pretty soon after, like maybe half an hour, I started feeling vertigo and I had to be driven home, leave class. Um, and I just knew immediately that I had to go to VRT again. And it took a lot of advocating for myself. And my wonderful husband did everything, absolutely everything he could to help me, support me, help advocate for me. And after many more visits to doctor's offices, a billion tests, we found out that it was migraine related, coupled with the vestibular hypofunction I already had. Um, so I started seeing a neurologist and they changed all of my medications because they all stopped working. Um, and I went back to VRT. I joined Group Fit, and now here I am. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all that with me. I know it can be so emotional and so hard sometimes to recount all of that and kind of go through that again. So I really appreciate you sharing with us.
Yeah, of course.
So I um would love to know about your journey in nursing school. And in group, literally 2 days ago, we were talking with one of the members. She just started nursing school, and she's like, the nursing school told me that like I might be a danger to my patients, and like I don't know if I can go to nursing school, but like all this stuff. It's her first week. And I'm like, well, first of all, like, no, like there's always options. But I'd love to hear kind of how you started returning to nursing school again and things like that. Like I remember when you were like back in school after you take a semester off and things like that. But if you could kind of tell us that story and like any accommodations you might have had and kind of how you navigated that system, I would love to hear about that. I'm sure everyone else would too.
Yeah, so I to be clear, I do still have a lot of days where I have symptoms and I never leave my house without, my little bag that has my little toolkit inside of it for any situation that may come up. But I'm also active in a lot of ways that I never thought I could be again. As an adult experiencing all of this, I run several times a week. I play on a co-ed soccer team, and I am moving forward in nursing school. So I guess like going back to March when my symptoms started, I did have to drop all of my nursing courses because I was just physically unable to participate in my clinicals. And at that point, for me, it would not have been safe to be in the hospital or to have patients. And it was really hard to make that decision. But I did. And I also unfortunately had to quit my work study job on campus, which I really enjoyed. So also made me sad. But I took that time to rest and work on healing. I started tracking my symptoms to learn what helps, what doesn't help, what my triggers are. And that did take a lot of work. I would sometimes just sit and write in a journal at the end of the day about everything I did that day, no matter how small, and how it made me feel, and whether good, bad, neutral. And it really helped me figure out how I could frame my days. And going through rehab, making sure I incorporated movement every single day, but mostly I needed a major change in my mindset. And after all of that, I was able to kind of come back to school and lots of communication with all of my faculty and students in my group to make sure that I was safe to do so and what to do if I was at the hospital and something happened and things like that.
Yeah, do you have a plan for that? Like, when you are at a clinical, let's say, and which is your job right now, right? Like,
Mhm.
school is your job. And when you're at your clinical and you're not sure, like, you have the capacity to do something someday, do you have, like, a way that you talked to, like, your preceptors and the people involved, or do you just kind of wing it and hope for the best?
Yeah, so I think I kind of have my own little plan um, that I didn't necessarily come out and like spit to all of the people that I was working with, just because I don't want to set the precedent that something will happen or have them standing over my shoulder, nervous about me doing anything. I just know for myself, if I am comfortable in a situation, then I can continue. And if I'm not, I need to say something and stop. Because at the end of the day, in a position like that, your patients are the most important thing. And I never would want to be responsible for something happening to somebody. And that was my biggest fear is that, I am going to do something unsafe because I'm not in a position to keep myself safe. And so now, I have my bag when I go to the hospital. It has every medication that I have been prescribed in it for any scenario, just in case. Um, my clinical faculty, I have a conversation with them at the beginning of every semester before we go to the hospital now, just so that they know in the event that I am not feeling well for whatever reason, I may come to them for that. But I don't know, I don't make it an expectation that that's something that's going to happen because every single day is different. And I think for myself and my mindset, if I was to expect something to happen, it more than likely would. So I don't like to, have that out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I just kind of go in, I see how I'm doing because fluorescent lights, sounds, all sorts of things can change your day. And if anything, I'll just take a little break. If I need to take my medication, I take it. And if I start to feel better, then great, I'll continue on with my day. But if I ever felt like I was in a situation where, today's not going to be a very good symptom day, I'm not going to be able to focus outside of myself, I would, probably call my husband to come and pick me up because I often have trouble driving in that situation and I would just be at home.
Perfect. I think that's the perfect like setup of like toolkit, tell your people and contingency plan just in case. Right? I think that's the perfect setup. I've heard you talk a lot about your mindset and I have it written here. What do you think was most helpful in shifting your mindset?
Oh, Well, this time around, I feel like I already knew I was able to get through it the first time. 10 years ago, I was a totally different person, but I was able to get through it and make it to where I am today. So I think that was already really helpful for me, even though I was so upset and so discouraged knowing, like this is happening again. Um, but I made the conscious decision to try and shift my mindset to be more positive. And it's going to sound super silly, but I ordered a giant pack of motivational stickers online.
I love that idea.
I got a huge pack with like 150, and I picked out all of the ones that spoke to me the most. Like I have one sitting right here above my desk that says, "Your dream is achievable." And I see it every single day when I come and sit down at my desk to do any work. I have another one here that says, "Do it for yourself." I have them all over my apartment. I hung them up. Uh, I have them on my mirror. So every single morning I see something that says, like, today's going to be a good day. I have them on my nightstand when I go to sleep at night. Or if I'm stuck in bed because I'm really not feeling well, I have a little message there for myself to remind myself, even though I might not feel so great right now, like I can do things to help myself feel better, and I will feel better.
Absolutely. That is such a huge shift. And it's so, so important to remember. Like, this just like getting dizzy is frustrating and it's scary and
Mm,
it's annoying and it's all of the bad emotions, but it also gets better. And as we're recording this, like, there's a history of other people who have come on this podcast who are also members of group who have also been the same through the same thing, whether it's happened 10 years ago, 25 years ago. Like, there's so many different like lengths of time depending on how old you are basically and how long you've been dealing with this, but there's always answers. And I think it's really empowering and helpful to remember, like, there are answers for this. Like, you might not have them right now because a lot of doctors will gaslight you and tell you it's just anxiety, which is infuriating. But I love that you're
yeah,
working in healthcare. And so when someone is in the hospital, you can be like, no, no, like, this is a legitimate thing, which having honestly nursing staff and doctor staff who understand vestibular disorders, have a vestibular disorder, I think is helpful more than anything, just for healthcare in general. So I think that that's such a powerful thing that you did. Like, I know this has gotten better before. I know this can get better again, and kind of working from there. And I love your motivational stickers. I will find some on Amazon and link them in the show notes of this episode.
yeah. I think I bought like a pack of 200 or something for like $1.50 on
That's,
this website. So I'll send you the link if I can
yes,
find it.
please do. Please do. If you can find it, please send me the link.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
but like choosing nursing for me, like I chose it because of what I've gone through. Like one of the most important things nurses do for their patients is advocate for them. And I remember what it feels like to not have that advocate when I really, really needed it on the other side, of healthcare. Because of course, I had my mom coming with me to appointments and she could speak up and say, this is not how my daughter normally acts or what's going on with her. But it's so different to have somebody on the other side who can help treat you, that advocates for you, believes you, understands what's going on with you. And like, I can't wait until I get to be that advocate for somebody else because I will be able to say, I understand and it'll be okay.
Totally. And it is so common. Like, you're gonna get more patients who say they're dizzy than you've probably even known at this point. Like, I'm really excited for you to be a nurse. You're gonna be great at it. I can tell.
Thank you.
Excited. I heard you say you're in a co-ed soccer league, and I already knew this about you, but also you said it already, and that you run a couple of days a week. And I would love to know how you returned to running again. I remember your first run. You posted a picture of it. I remember it. Um, I would love to know how you returned to running and soccer and all of the things and kind of what went into that for you.
Yeah, so group fit definitely did help a lot with that, I would say, because I started by doing some of the sitting. exercises when, I wasn't confident enough to make one trip from one side of my apartment to the other without holding on to something. So it's like, I'm going to start sitting. I'm going to start easy for myself. And then I progressed to yoga, which was my favorite. I did it every day pretty much. And I love that I could just tailor it to however I was feeling that day. If it was a super dizzy day, I could do most of it on the ground. If it was a better day for me, I could challenge myself a little bit and see if I could, balance a little like on one foot or something, even if it was just for a couple of seconds. So I started doing things like that, and eventually I was able to start going on walks just around the block in my neighborhood with my husband, and that progressed to going out for the first time myself, which was very scary. I was really scared that I was gonna have like a huge flare up, not be able to make it around the block, and I was just gonna like sit down and have to call him from work to come help me get home. But that didn't happen. I didn't go too hard, too fast, and it just progressed into longer and longer walks. And yeah, then eventually I said one day, I want to see what it feels like if I can go running because it's something I used to love to do. And so I tried it and I didn't make it very far. I didn't feel very good, but I really wanted to be able to do it. So I don't remember what run it was. I started a running diary, sort of. So I go for a run, I take a picture of myself afterwards, and I put how far I went, how long I went for, how I felt, if there were any challenges I encountered on that run, and that would help me inform my next run. But also, I have so many of those pictures now, and I love being able to look back at where I started and see where I am now. I have, I think, like 25 runs in my run diary now, which is so cool.
That's so fun. I pulled up on Facebook before this podcast,
Mhm,
and this one is from August 3rd, 2023. And this is what you posted. I
mhm.
recently got back into running regularly after a couple of years off, and I've been feeling very dizzy towards the end of my runs. Today was my first run back, and I had no dizziness at all, even slowing or stopping. Huge win for me. And then it says run number 8, 25 minutes, 1.54 miles. Felt great today, ran about a mile, then switched to intervals, walk, jog, sprint, jog. Not dizzy at all today, even on stopping. And that is so huge. Like that makes me so happy.
Yeah, I cried while I was posting that. I called my mom actually first, who's in Colorado. I grew up in Colorado. And I was like, Mom, guess what? I not only went by myself, but I went for a run and I tried sprinting and I still felt okay.
Huge.
It was so huge for me. And it did take, if that said run 8, then it took 8 times for me to get there. But I knew I had to keep doing it before I was gonna be able to say, I can do this and not feel dizzy anymore.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can do it. And like 8 both feels like so many times and not a lot of times all at the same time.
Yeah.
Remembering that like running is a hard thing regardless of who you are as a human. Like even marathon runners will be like, running is hard. Like running is hard, but it's also one of like a very freeing feeling to go for a run a lot of times and just like you can go anywhere, do anything, like whatever. And whether it's 0.001 miles or 10 miles, like you've still gone out and done that thing for yourself. And that is so awesome. And I'm not sure you used it, but there is a return to run protocol in Vestibular Group Fit, that will tell you exactly how to like walk, run, jog, break, things like that a couple days a week and how long you should do the intervals and things like that as well. For anyone listening who's like, I want to run again, it exists and it's possible.
Yeah, I did. I looked at it. I did not follow it just because I felt like it was not at the same speed that I was feeling myself. So I
Awesome.
don't want to say recovering because like I know I'm going to be dealing with this forever, but how I was healing was not lining up exactly with it. So I just kind of created my own.
I love that.
And yeah.
perfect, honestly. Like, you're always welcome to use things and also not. Welcome to adjust them.
Mhm.
And that's really what scaling is. Like, vestibular group fit, I think I probably talk about scaling like 85,000 times a day, and probably everyone's sick of me saying this, but scaling to your level is the most important thing that you can possibly do as a human generally, and with a vestibular disorder especially. Like, scaling to where you are now, like, if I always say, if you used to run a marathon and then you got a vestibular disorder and you haven't been running for a while, then you're not just going to go back to running marathons, right? Like,
No.
you're going to start at like couch to 5K again, and then work your way up from there if marathon is your goal. And it's the same thing if you like tore a hamstring. You wouldn't go running 10 miles on your torn hamstring, hopefully. I mean, some people probably do, but I would never recommend it. And they're just these things that you need to do in order to get yourself back into the position where your body's like, yeah, we can definitely do this. And so I love that you did it yourself, took it for your own.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it too was like as I was going, it was helping me shift my mindset, but my mindset was also helping me continue going, like a circular, like just a cycle, because
Yeah.
I needed to feel confident in my own space before I could feel confident outside for sure. Because I couldn't even cook a meal in my kitchen. I couldn't take a shower by myself.
No.
Like, yeah, and so I had to get over those things before I even said, I want to go try going for a walk outside, which was so frustrating. But I knew that I needed to take little baby steps. And they felt like gigantic leaps when I was able to, cross those hurdles. But it was just one thing at a time until I said, hey, yeah, I think this is the next thing. I just need to be brave and go and do it and be dizzy while I'm doing it.
Absolutely. Doing it dizzy and doing it scared are two things that I think come up in vestibular group fit a lot from people. They're like, I just did it dizzy, or I just did it scared. And then I came home and I did my grounding, I did my breathing, I took my meds. Like, I did whatever I needed to do once I got there. But like, I can do these things, and it's not necessarily without symptoms because there's no cures for these disorders, but you can do the things you want to do with a vestibular disorder. I was just talking to one of my patients, and she's like, well, we're talking about how she's nervous about doing this one thing. And I was like, well, if you wanted to go skydiving tomorrow, we would work out like how to go skydiving with a vestibular disorder. Like, we'd talk about it. I just think that there's ways and steps to do everything. And so long that you have the right tools, you can do whatever you want. Like, nursing school is always an option. Playing soccer again is an option. Going to a Taylor Swift concert is an option. You just need the right things to be able to get there.
Yeah, I actually, in my vestibular therapy, I told my therapist, I want to go to this wedding.
Hmm.
I was still very dizzy, not balancing very well on my own. And my husband was a groomsman for one of his best friends in his wedding. And I said, I want to go to this. I want to dance. Can you help me get there? And we changed how we were doing things to prepare me for that, which I didn't know was also going to prepare me to be able to go back to play soccer again and run regularly and all of that. But I got to go, I danced, and I did it a little bit dizzy, but I was able to do it.
Yay.
So, yeah.
That is awesome. I'm so excited about all of, I mean, I'm always excited for everyone. And I just love that you're like, this is my functional goal. I want to go to this wedding. Like, there's always a functional goal and there's always a way to do it. And I know you used to be a member and you're not anymore, but now every other week, I have in my giant calendar over here to my left. And so I'm staring at it. But every other week for the entire year, there is a new segment called How to Do Anything with a Vestibular Disorder. And everything on there, from how to go to the grocery store to how to bend over to how to go to church again. Let's see, hair salon, moving your head. Like, there are just so many things that are going to go in there so that you can have access to, like, how do I go to a wedding? Right? Like, what are the steps that I need to take, and how do I practice beforehand? So I think that that's so great, and I'm just excited for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. I think that is really beneficial for people because those are some really big questions we have when we're not able to do a lot of things on our own or feel like we can't do it on our own is like, how do I do this very specific thing? when I'm in this situation right now.
Totally, exactly. And obviously you'll have to watch it before you go do it, but like
Yep.
these are not like one-off things, right? You don't just go to the grocery store one time. You probably just don't go to a wedding one time, right? There's all these different things that you can do to get there. And so I think that's great. Yay. Okay. Anything else you have?
Um,
I have some rapid fire questions for you, but I just want to make sure you feel like you got to say all the things you wanted to say.
yeah, I think I'm good. Keep
Okay,
going.
awesome. Okay, so next I have a couple of rapid fire questions that I ask everyone who is slash was a vestibular group fit member ever. And they're just quick questions and they don't have to be super long and they can be as long as you want them to be. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. What was your favorite part of being a vestibular group fit member?
Both, I would say both the yoga and just being a part of the group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it helped me feel grounded, helped me challenge myself. I already said all this, that I could change it for myself. Um, and it was really important for me that I could do something individually and not have to ask for help from someone, that I could figure it out on my own. Even though it is really important when you need it to ask for help, I'm not always the best at that. And this was a way for me to be able to do something on my own that was so important for me too.
Yay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you feel like the resources in there helps you do the things by yourself too?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. What was your biggest or is your biggest goal that you've reached as a member of Vestibular Group Fit?
Getting back to running.
Getting back
A
to
100%. Yeah. And playing soccer. And I love just being able to look back on where I was and see where I am now. And just, it's so empowering to see the change in the progress that I've made.
totally. I have your intro post up to and the change is honestly unbelievable. Like and it's obviously never unbelievable, but it's always so fun to read like all the things that you accomplished versus exactly where you started. So I'm excited for you. How did group help you and what did you find was the most helpful for you in this journey? I know you loved yoga, but what was like the most, I guess I sort of asked you this question already, but what was the most helpful part of group?
Being able, I think just being a part of the group itself online, being able to hear other people's stories, their wins, and knowing that I was not the only one going through it, because it can just be so isolating going through vertigo, dizziness, vestibular disorder in general. My husband had never seen me like that before. He didn't understand fully until he saw me change so much. And I think just especially being able to see the positives other people were finding in their own journeys helped me to find positives in my own.
Awesome. That's a great answer. And then last one, what's one piece of advice you would offer to others going through something just like this right now?
I Mindset is absolutely everything. Like, it's so much easier said than done, but do whatever you can, whatever you need to give yourself grace, look for positives in your own journey, and most importantly, remember you have made it through 100% of the days before this day, and you will make it through the next one.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice. And your mindset truly is so important. This is something that like I never shut up about in group. You sound like me or I sound like you or whatever. But like mindset comes first and everything else comes second because if you are exercising like I hate this and it makes me dizzy and everything's worse and blah 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 like you're doing something good for your body but like if you have now mindseted that like dizziness is terrible and it makes me dizzy then it's going to keep doing that. And so mindset first and even if it's small shifts at first like changing one thought a day or having one moment of like, I'm okay a day, it really makes such a difference in the long run. And clearly you've done that so well. And I'm so proud of you and excited for all the things that life has to hold for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, when I hung up all those stickers, I didn't believe any of them, but now I have them everywhere, and I'm like, yeah, my dream is achievable. Yeah, I can do it
Yeah,
for me.
absolutely.
So,
And there's one you
yeah,
posted. We can do hard things.
yes,
Love
that
that.
was actually at the very center, I have this whiteboard behind me. This was my vestibular board while I was
Love it.
doing rehab, and I put that sticker in the middle instead of an X. I just had "You can do hard things," and I was staring at that while I was doing all turning
That's
and
genius.
all of that. So
That
yeah,
is awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this and taking the time out of your very busy schedule as a student nurse to do this. I'm
of
so glad you're
course.
here and thank you so much.